Let's go over part one of your DGD 120 Illustrator finals. All right. Overall, I like what I see. I think that there's some critique that I can give to help you hopefully improve these and do something that you're proud of doing. So I know these can be kind of tricky and sort of odd thinking of illustrating a word, but something that can be really handy, especially for logo work, I feel, to help you add sort of like design elements with, text and action words, things like that. So that being said, let's get started. Oops. I think this one is a decent start. I think my issue with this one largely is that it's really just kind of like text and then a graphic, rather than having the text be part of the graphic or more integrated with the graphic. For this one, I would try to see. I'm guessing it's kind of like a megaphone kind of action that you're going for there. I would be clear on what you want that graphic to be. I would pick one of the words. I'm leaning towards roar, but because it's more of like a verb, an action word, and I would kind of turn that roar into like what you have here. If you wanted to think of it as like an animal mouth roaring or something like that, see if you can sort of incorporate that, more illustrate, um, that like mouth or the action into the word rather than just having graphics next to your text. Even having some of these lines coming off of the R, and then have, your part of your R or part of your O be, a mouth opening or something like that. But, again, largely really just incorporate the graphics and the text together rather than having them as kind of like two separate elements that are just kind of placed together, if you get what I mean. But I think it's a pretty strong concept, a strong idea. I think you can kind of, again, work with it to make it a little bit more graphic rather than separate elements together on a document. All right. And then going to this one, not to completely change your whole design here, but I like what you're going for. I like some of the ideas that you have with some of the placed images within the text. Again, sort of a similar critique is rather than just have, the text. You have type on a path, and that's pretty much it. If you're going for, I'm trying to think, think of more of an action word rather than like nature. Isn't really a verb. So think of what you're trying to convey here. Like I'm getting almost like breeze is still technically a noun, but a breeze or wind or something like that. Like think of what you're trying to evoke here with this. I'm kind of getting like a wind, breeze. I'm blanking out other words. And really, again, sort of make it more an illustration rather than just kind of like type on a path. I like the idea of the repetition. I would just sort of, look at think about what you're looking to convey, what you're looking to design, and really make it more of an illustration rather than just text on a path. I think there's some different ways that you can take some of these elements with like, wind or breeze or whatever, and you had this like multiple iterations of your word over and over and over again to make it look like an actual breeze blowing along with the word. Lastly, and for everybody really, make sure that you're outlining your fonts as well. So I'm missing the font here, and if you outline your fonts, convert it to shape, convert to outlines, it's also a little bit easier to distort and to play around with. You can grab anchor points and actually pull them apart and use that to create your illustrations rather than just having the text be still editable type. When you convert it to outlines, you can grab, where's my mouse? There it is. You can grab, let's say you want to grab this endpoint of the N and drag it out, and then this endpoint of the N and drag it out, and then it gives you a more solid, shape. I don't think it's going to let me outline it here, but I'll show you very quickly what I mean. So here we have our text, And then if we go to type, create outlines, or Shift Command O, now it's not editable text anymore. It's just essentially an object. So if you wanted to, you know, use that to help illustrate, you know, you still have your N technically, but you can kind of use that to help illustrate, and you can change it to curves, etc. But that allows you to pull apart your text a little bit more to make it more graphic. But yeah, lastly, again, recapping, I would think about what you're trying to evoke here, the kind of feeling or the kind of word, you know, rather than nature, and you know, again, we'll turn it more into a graphic illustration rather than just text on a path. All right. I think this is a really strong start, good font choice for this, and then also turning the T into a knife there. You know, you sort of get the meaning. My potential suggestions would be is sort of physically turn this more into an action. You know, you have like the knife replacing the T is a cool element, but maybe try to have it so that there's some motion to it. I'm going to group this just so it's a little bit easier. You know, you can have, you know, something as easy as, you know, even if you moved it down a little bit and then had, you know, this is kind of quick and dirty, but, you know, if you had these kind of falling off, so it looked like it was actually kind of like breaking apart, sort of, if that makes sense. You know, you can even add some, you know, some lines so it looks like it's, you know, really stabbing through the word, that kind of thing. So you really sort of illustrate the action. Like right now you have your object illustrated really well, but your action, you know, I feel like you could actually create some movement by maybe even adding a graphic, or, you know, creating some movement within the letters themselves. All right, moving on to this one. I think, again, we have a really good start. I think I like the idea of this. I think you could really push that sort of squeeze in the middle of the hug, and even if you added an element, I'm wondering if you could add, like, you know, a hand. It keeps. I'll just show you the effect. Like, I'm wondering if. I'm still gonna do it. If, like, here maybe, and like on the G, give or take in the middle, if you can add like hands, you know, kind of squeezing it together, or even like an arm and a hand ending here, and an arm reaching and ending here. You know, if you had it like literally like being hugged, might be kind of cool. If you could add some sort of like design element like that. You know, similar into the with the stab and the knife, you can add elements for sure. So if you had kind of like hands, you know, actually physically hugging it, might be kind of a cool idea to push it. And again, you know, I would really kind of push that effect that you have, that squeeze in the middle. I think works really well. You can push that even more. I think the font works really well. It's a very playful, like sort of soft looking font, so it has that like appeal of the hug. So I think your font choice works really well here. You know, again, some minor tweaks, and I think you could have a really super strong piece there. All right, similar. I like this idea of the eclipse. This would be a solar eclipse. Sorry, I was blanking on solar or lunar. You know, I like the idea you have. You know, you're physically creating that eclipse, and the E. My only sort of critique here would be I would kind of maybe push that a little bit more. Oops, I'm trying to see how that's. As I just messed this whole thing up. Undo. Oh, getting the spinning beach ball here. So I might push this edge. Oh, I see. Get the mesh here. Mesh, not mess. I would see if you can push that edge a little bit more. You know, show a little bit more of that. The sun or the moon, I'm assuming sun. You know, if you could show a little bit more of that white area to really, you know, get that a little bit more crescenty. I like you have the dark going into the light here. I might make your font just a touch heavier, and you can do that by adding a stroke on your text. If I can get my window up here, adding a stroke. Let's see if it's looking thin or not. It's not going to. I think your mesh is, if you can break this down without digging into your layers too much. Okay, so okay, that's locked. That's this background. Yeah. I wonder if we can. So I'm trying to dig into your layers here and see what you did to create this. But anyway, you can add, I might simplify it a little bit. You can certainly just have, potentially have a similar effect with just a shape here without digging into your effects too much. It's kind of hard to tell. Okay, that's that. So this is off. Oh, there's, okay, gotcha. But you see, sort of get the idea of what I'm talking about. You can kind of create this just by using a shape and then still have that similar effect. You can even play around with your opacities, even if you just had a simple a black object and then played with your transparencies or played with your overlays. Then that might work to create, instead of using meshes, that might work to simplify it a little bit, but also to have it a little bit cleaner. But yeah, I like the start of this. I would maybe make this font a little bit heavier, and then make this a little bit more obvious. So it would hopefully make this a little bit more obvious that that's the E for your eclipse. But yeah, I like what we have so far. I think, again, some relatively minor tweaks. And then I believe this is the last one. Yeah. Again, I really like the start of this one. Some minor tweaks to this one, I would say. See if you can make it a little bit more dynamic. Have it, sort of arched instead of, like you could have it, have this one start to come. Oops. Throw it together. Sorry. So if we had this one, sort of start to come down, give it a little bit more playfulness, a little bit, again, so these are, so it's coming up and down. You can even have some of the motion lines going the opposite way on this one, or have it be different. Play around with it. That's really my only minor critique, is just kind of give it a little bit more, a little bit more dynamic, just by, tweaking a little bit, or even, I don't know if this is going to be too much if you start to just lightly, you don't have to do it a whole lot, but just, very subtly, very subtly move some of these guys, and it gives it, a little bit more dynamics there. But you get the idea, though. But I really like how playful this is. I think it works really well. It's a good start. I think some tweaks to it, to just give it a little bit more, a little bit more of a dynamic look, rather than just having them all go, sort of up. Or even if they all go up, have them, rather than have them, they're really, really evenly spaced. If you're jumping, have it look a little bit more natural, a little bit, sort of like off on purpose, if that makes sense, rather than so structured. Break that structure just a little bit. If you still wanted them all going up, obviously, just very quickly, you could still kind of have them all go up. But you can see even having them at different levels and different, rather than perfectly evenly spaced, having them be a little bit off, even angled, sort of helps a little bit as well. Sort of keep that, looking a little bit more natural, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think overall a really good start with these. It's a good start to our final presentations, and a really good start for our action words. Well done.